And hello once again. I'm going to show you how to access the Eudravigilance European Database of Suspected Drug Reactions in reference to the COVID-19 inoculations, vaccinations, whatever you want to call them. All right, to start off with, first on the YouTube channel itself, I'll have the links. And for those not familiar, we're going to be using Pandas, Python, regular expressions, and datetime as far as imports. So let us begin to start with. First, you go to the Eudravigilance European Database Suspected Drug Reaction Report site. Obvious. Now, what you end up doing is you either can go through search or you can follow a link. For the simplicity, we're going to follow the link. All right. Now, before I begin to get too far, I want to show you a couple of different items here to keep an eye on. We're going to have two separate download sections. The first one right here is real important because I'm going to show you the limitations of the size of the database, meaning you cannot download all the data even if you wanted to because there's some limitations in reference to CSV files. We'll look at that in a second. And number two, what we'll focus on primarily is the serious reactions only, since we can't download all of the reactions reported to your Eudravigilance site to begin with. So with that in mind, let us begin as well. So here we go, back to this. Accept the disclaimer. Then you click on C. Now, sometimes your site will be on here and you may not find it, but just remember to keep this highlighted here and that'll get you there. All right, so then we scroll down. Scroll all the way down and you're going to find the 4 inoculations. Now, if you're here in the United States, they go through different names in the European Union. So let us get down to the COVID vaccines. And there we are. See right there? There it is. And you see, for example, Pfizer may be actually either referred to as this or Comirnaty or something like that. You'll get the idea. ASTRAZENECA, JANSSEN, sometimes known as JANSSEN & JANSSEN. You get the picture. But what we are going to do is I want to show you basically we are going to download this first. And this is important because this is going to show you the limitations of the database itself. Now, what am I talking about limitations? Well, let us begin. So if you go to the web user guide, you can see right here, if you're using Excel, and this is where a lot of data analysts, or for example, make mistakes, is they think they're downloading all the reactions. Well, they only maybe downloading 13,000 rows. And what we're going to do is we're going to utilize CSV. And CSV, of course, is going to give us, if you look at that again, is going to give us 100,000 rows. Now, they're a little generous because it does go over a little more than 100,000, but we will not be able to download all of the reactions for one main reason. There are so many reports being submitted to Eudravigilance that basically the system has become overwhelmed. And you'll see why in a second. So we're only going to be able to focus on the serious reactions. So let's get back here again. All right, let us basically go to the database we opened up. Remember what we did is we clicked on Pfizer Biotech. And there you see 574,427 reactions. Now the problem is each one of these is an ID, and each one of these IDs basically indicates a row. So according to the CSV file here, whoops, let's go this way. All you can have is 100,000 rows. You see what I mean? So that's your caveat you have to watch out for. So by keeping that in mind, what we are going to do is we will go to this line listing and we will download just the serious reactions. So you click on here, on serious reactions, and then you hit run line listing report. Now, this is how you get to the information. Come on, go there. All right, now what you do with the information is you go scroll all the way down to the bottom. Down, down, down. And right there, let's see if I can show you a little bit bigger here. Right there. You see that? This little thing right there, the export. All right, so what that is going to be, I'm just keep on showing you just in case you don't see it. That little export button is where we get our file. So you hit export, and right here you see CSV. And then from CSV, you hit click. And from there, you'll begin to download your file. Now we're going to cancel since we already downloaded. So you're going to have to do that for basically each of the individual vaccines being administered through the Eudravigilance, or the EU, I should say. So you'll have to do that for each of those individual vaccines. So you have 4 different files. And now we go to our data. Here we go. Ready? Now, this is the full database. Now I'm going to show you exactly where the problem is. Let's run first, import those the modules. Now, if you see these right here, that's the CSV files. Now we are going to upload them first into our notebook. If you're using Jupyter Notebook, whatever IDE you're using, just keep that in mind. So let's basically do this. Boom. So we're going to upload all these files into the system. Now, what we're going to do too, once you see there, is we're going to check the lengths. There's the lengths. 249,904. If you notice for basically, let me show you for example. If you notice, for example, for Pfizer, right there, and also for ASTRAZENECA, right here, 249,904. Now, these haven't maxed out yet, but that's about your max, 249,904 reactions or IDs that can be submitted. Yet, we looked at basically Moderna. We go back here, just to reiterate, there's 574,427. So we don't have that number, do we? You see what I mean? The system's been overwhelmed and it needs to be updated badly. And that's about the max you're going to get if you try to download all of the reactions. It's 249,904 individual reports. Now, let us begin with working just with the serious reactions. Remember when we ran this report? And so I'm going to do the serious reactions. And now, because we had this will give us more pertinent data that we can utilize. And a serious reaction in reference to the Eudravigilance is anything that requires medical attention, hospitalization, so on and so forth, reported to the database. So let's check out lengths. And we're heading towards the end of the year. But if you see right there, we're about to max out even our file download sizes in reference to serious reactions. And so there it is. So now you get an idea. So now we begin to look at the head of data. This is where it gets a little confusing. All right, see right here? A lot of these files, or I should say these columns, if not needed for just general basic scraping of the inoculation site itself, we're just going to cancel out these rows, like the ICSR forms, like this row here, and so on and so forth. And if you look at this, for example, I'm going to show you a little way we're going to cheat as far as extracting data from that particular column. And here, we're not going to cheat, but I'll show you how to break up each one of these individual, basically, reactions that are reported to the database, and then be able to compile them as far as a count. You'll see what I mean in a second. But a lot of this data, for example, you're not going to need. So let us begin. All right, so first I'm going to do is expand the database out here, just to give us some, so you can read the whole column. And here are some of the hazards that you have to watch out for in reference to the data. See right here, all this information. You have NAs, you have basically, you have your breaks, so on and so forth, parentheses. We're going to use this to our advantage because we're going to delete the information in between the parentheses utilizing regular expressions. Again, this is not a course on how to do it, obviously, because I'm a real amateur, but just an example on how I do it and show you how you can do it as well. All right, and so for example, check out the next column. You see the vaccine information. A lot of this information is not going to be required, and because all you have is this information here. Once you have that, all we do, if you notice, for example, is we make another column. And we just make the column, for example, if it's downloading from the Moderna file, then basically just add that extra column to Moderna. Pfizer, Janssen, AstraZeneca. And therefore you can bypass all of this stuff, all right? And just with a new column. You'll see why in a second. So let's begin. Oh, also too, when downloading the information, you see right here, you must ignore the index. If you do not ignore the index, you will still get the same length of all the files, but obviously the numbers are not going to be able to easily be pulled up. If you make the mistake, you'll know exactly what I mean, because I did make the mistake the first time myself. So now let's concatenate all the files, since basically we have all of the same columns, but in a way that's not going to overwrite any of the particular indexes. All right, now let's look at our columns. There's our columns, just keep that in mind. Now let's check our lengths. Now remember, these are just the serious reactions. So you have 505,026 serious reactions that required medical attention claiming reported to Eudravigilance. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to assign that to a z, the variable. So just because we can put it in the title of our graph at the bottom. Now what we're going to do is we are going to drop all of the columns that we don't need, just to make it easy, okay? So we look at here, a lot of these we don't need, so basically we're just going to drop them. All right, see, as you see right there, drop. All right, now let's do that. All right, now let's look at our data frame. There we have it. We have just a few of the basics that we need. And did we, oh, look what I did. We forgot to hit, see that? That's how we make the mistake. I forgot to execute that cell. Let's concatenate again. See how easy it is to make a mistake? I got ahead of myself. But simple fix. There's our VAXX. Still, same length. Assign the variable, even though I don't need to hit that again. Drop our columns that we don't need. And now let's look at it again. There it is. Because again, we're linking the vaccine to the CSV file we're downloading, as opposed to trying to mine the information from it itself. But still just the same. Let's look at this. Now we got to filter through all of this and extract all the reactions and then put them into a plot. You ready? Let's look. So here we go. We're just basically extending the column width again. That's not a requirement, but all the code will be in the YouTube site. You can follow on your own. Now, let's look what we got. Now, check this out too. You see that little dot right there? If you're not careful, you don't see it there. But when you copy and paste that column, you'll find it. Tricky, and now mess you up. Here we go. Ready? Ba-bum. Let's see what we got. We're basically processing and pulling things out. Now what we're doing here is this. See this right here? For the simplicity, you can use regular expressions and you ignore case and if you want to and all that other stuff. But just for simplicity, I just wanted to change the name of the files from these super long ones into shorter ones because it's easy to work with, and made everything uppercase instead of saying ignore case later on. All right, now to our regular expressions. You see right here? There we are. Regular expressions. And what we're going to do, as you notice right here, is we are going to replace, basically erase them from those not familiar. Replace those items so basically it goes away. Here we go. Ready? Let's boom. Into variable, ba ba ba. And then here we go. Now we're replacing all the information, get the average warning, so on and so forth. Now let's see what it looks like. We took out everything in the parentheses, we took out the breaks, and so let's see what we got. Boom. Now here comes the fun part. All right, what we're going to do, you see all of everything separated by a comma, as you can see, right? The comma there, and comma there, and comma there. All right, so what we're going to do is treat it like a list. We are going to split it. And then what we are going to do, which is really takes a little bit of finesse. You see these IDs here? You see that ID 37 right there? All right, you'll watch what happens. So we're going to do something called explode. We're going to take Pandas explode, and we are going to explode this line. And what that's going to do is that's going to make additional rows. Now keep in mind, if you want to report on the number of serious reactions, it can interfere. So you get the length of the data frame, or number of rows of data frame before you do this, because this will give you a false high on the number of rows after we explode it. You'll see exactly what I mean in a second. And here we go. You see this right here? That code right there. Watch. Boom. And now we explode all this right here. Check it out. You see it? All the same ID right there. You see all the same ID, but we took all of the information here and created entire new rows. Meanwhile, maintaining the same information that's required associated with that ID. It's important if you're trying to link certain things as well, but that's from explode, and we exploded the column reaction. All right, now here we go. Now we go to our value counts. Just to give a good look, there we are. There's our value counts of all the serious reactions associated with reports being submitted that required medical attention. All right, now we build a data frame. Dun, dun, dun. And you can see right here, we're going to do our next counts again, or value counts. And let's see, boom, 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 just going through. Now what we're doing here, let me just back this up just a little bit. Let's add an extra column so you can see. All right, what we're doing here is there's a lot of reactions. And so a lot of, for example, the way they're reported, you see a lot of ones. And so what we are doing here is we're querying the data frame, but we're doing over a certain number. You can change that as you want, but I want to make sure it's at least 10,000 reports submitted to Eudravigilance or more. And so that's what we're querying. And we already did it. So here we go. Let's look at our example. Now this part you don't require. This is just basically using plotly. And the next part, and you see here, so now I want to take this, and without me, being too specific, we're going to be using a graphing system called plotly, and we're going to take all that and make this visual. Here we go. Ready? And here comes our plot. Give it a second, and there it is. So there you have headache, pyrexia, fatigue, chills, and these are all the reactions that have been reported to Eudravigilance that basically required medical attention. All the way down the line, at least at 10,000 more or above. Once again, all the code I'll put on the YouTube channel. I think we may have the only angle brackets we have are right here. And keep in mind, YouTube does not normally allow angle brackets being placed into its comment section, obviously for what's called scripting attacks, if you're not familiar. But it'll all be there for you as well, and as well as the link to the site. And any questions, I don't get a chance to answer too many because, a lot going on, but I'll try to answer any questions you possibly have as far as accessing the Eudravigilance European database of suspected adverse drug reaction reports in reference to the COVID vaccines. Again, hope this helps. I made this a little easier. This is a redux. I did this before. And so what I did is I basically took some of the looping aspects away that are not required and tried to basically made it some easier shortcuts that, like, for example, add in the column, a reference to the CSV column, type of vaccine, which makes it a little easier to work with this particular data frame itself. Again, Ralph signing off, and I hope you find this information useful, and I'll catch you all next time. See you then. Bye.